Right. So last time we kind of got our first little taste of functions and how to call them and what they are in the Unity engine. So with that information, now we can actually, for the first time, start interacting with the Unity engine and making things happen. To do that, we are going to come back to this idea of a mono-behavior. So if you just go ahead and switch over to your script again, you remember here this class inherits from MonoBehaviour. So when that happens, we get these built-in functions, the start and update function. But we also get several variables that represent key elements of the Unity engine. So if you just want to explore this a little bit, if you just go over to Google and search for Unity MonoBehaviour, you can see the reference for this that describes everything that comes with a MonoBehaviour. And so you can see the functions in here, a lot of the things that we were talking about before on GUI. Start is in here. There's update. There's a lot of stuff that comes with that. But what we're interested in today is these inherited members. So these are a lot of the ways that you do stuff in the engine. So there's this transform component that lets you move objects around. There's this collider component that lets you register collisions and do stuff with that. So if you're trying to make a gun, you get the collider and try to detect if something's been hit. There's a renderer that lets you change which objects are being rendered in the scene. There's a rigid body, which is basically just lets you apply physics forces to objects. While there's other ways to interact with the engine, starting out, the majority of the interaction that we're going to do is using these inherited members. So because we're interested in changing the size of the object, the component that we're going to interact with today is the transform component, or this transform inherited member, which is basically a reference to the transform component of the game object that the script is attached to. So understanding what that means is really important. So one more time, these inherited members are variables in the script that represent components of the game object that the script is attached to. Alright, so now that we know that we have these inherited members available in our script that let us control components through the script to create the behavior that we want, the next step is actually how we figure out which of these inherited members we're going to use, which functions we're going to call, which variables we're going to call. And the way that I have figured all of that out, everything that I've done, is just through Googling different search queries. And you'll start to get a feel over time about how that works. So I just thought we'd go through that real quick. So what we'll do is we'll just search, okay, what do we want to do? We want to change the size of a game object, so just changing the size of a game object in Unity. Okay. And then when I'm looking through the search results, I would lean toward, well, go from the top to the bottom in terms of the search results, just because they're a little bit more relevant. And then you'll start to get better at filtering out kind of what are good responses and what are bad responses based on, which ones include code, how much code do they include, do they look like legit people. So like this to me doesn't look that legit. So we're going to go back here and we've got a script reference, that doesn't seem right. How to change the scaling of a game object during runtime, that sounds pretty relevant. Okay, that's the question. We're going to skip back down here to the answer. Okay, so this actually looks pretty relevant. So you'd have to get a little bit more of an understanding to be able to parse this, but I can go in here and look at this and see, okay, they're accessing this transform member, and they're doing transform.local scale. And they're setting that variable. So based on that, I think this transform.local scale is going to be the thing that we want. So now that we know which piece of the engine we're going to use to create the results that we want, we can actually start exploring the documentation and figuring out how we're going to do that. And we'll start that in the next tutorial. Thanks.